Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, October 1st. Baseball playoffs are here. We're in October. They did it great. The first two wildcard games are officially underway, and along with our classic Rankings Tuesday, we are going to break down the MLB playoffs, starting with the wild card rounds, eventually leading to a World Series prediction. Of course, breaking down Monday Night Football's doubleheader between the Dolphins and the Titans and the Seahawks and the Lions, before hopping into our NFL power rankings and, of course, our NCAA top 25. But before we get into any of that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, October 1st. But like I was saying, we are in October, and that means playoff baseball, which means we are going to break down the October playoff picture. The MLB playoffs are here. Wonderful time. Starting off with the two games that are currently going on, and those two series, the Houston Astros, winning their division, having a huge comeback in the middle of the season, starting at 10 games back from the Seattle Mariners, who end up missing out on the playoffs this year. They're hosting the Detroit Tigers in these wild card series. All of them are best of three. We got to see in this first game that currently she sees a Tigers 3-0 lead in the bottom of the eighth with 2 outs to go. Not over yet, but we got to see a gem from Tariq Skubal. Tariq Skubal goes out there, 6 innings strong. Tariq Skubal throws 6 innings, only 4 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, just 88 pitches. Absolute domination out of the future AL Cy Young winner. The Tigers are a team who have been hotter than anybody else in the last couple months. They sneak into the playoffs after having a 0.2% chance to make it in August. They're here now, and they win a game. Now, I know we're at a point where the Tigers are going to win this game, most likely. But looking at the bracket, looking at this Houston team, I know a lot of times you have to go with the hot bat. And right now, if you're going with the hot team, the hottest team in baseball is the Detroit Tigers. There's a reason that they snuck into the top 10 of our latest power rankings. There's a reason that, we see them up on the Astros right now. But the Astros are a team that has the most playoff experience. Over 100 baseball playoff games played for these Houston Astros. Over 100 of them since 2015. That is ridiculous. They've made it to 7 straight ALCS. That's not normal. I don't see them losing in the wild card round at least. And even if they're going to lose this game, they go up against Tariq Skubal, and I had him losing this game anyway. Astros take this wild card series in 3. To the other game that's active right now, the Kansas City Royals head to Baltimore to take on those Baltimore Orioles. Top of the 5th, that game is moving very quickly. 2 outs in that one. 0-0, no score, only 3 hits all game long. In fact, 4. Only 4 hits all game long. Corbin Burns, Cole Reagans have been going at it. Neither of them have surrendered a walk, just those 4 base runners right now. If you love pitching, which I love pitching, this is the series to watch. The Royals have one of the best starts, top 3 arms in all of baseball. The Baltimore Orioles, outside of Corbin Burns, are a little bit weak. This is a very, very important game for them to win. This is an Orioles team that's really struggled recently. They lost. They went on a very cold streak at the end of the season. Pitching is not where it needs to be right now for the Orioles, and I think they lose this series in 3. I think Kansas City upsets the Baltimore Orioles, takes them down in 3 games on the road. Next year might be the year for the O's, but this is not it. Moving on to games that have not yet taken place. Those were the 2 AL wildcard games. Over in the NL, we have the two most recent teams that clinched playoff spots, both of them on Monday by winning a game in that doubleheader that we were keeping you guys updated on in our last show. The Mets, the number 6 seed Mets, travel to Milwaukee to take on the Brewers. And the Brewers are a team that have been really solid all season long. They haven't done anything too crazy, too wild. They win 90 games. They do what they need to do, take care of business here. But the Mets have been this team of destiny ever since Grimace threw out his first pitch, right? Ever since June 11th, they've gone 65-31. They have been an incredible baseball team. Again, you can go back. You go to the hot hand. They've been one of the hottest in all of baseball. Francisco Lindor, while maybe his stats don't jump out at you when you take a look at them, he has been probably the MVP outside of Shohei Ohtani, of course. This team has been awesome. And they're not really slowing down anytime soon. Their bullpen's in a really good spot. I think the Mets take this series. I think they win it in 2 games. I think they sweep here on the road. We'll see though. This is going to be a good one. This one's going to be tight throughout. And on to the one that I think is the most lopsided. The most lopsided series, I think, is going to be the Braves and the San Diego Padres. The San Diego Padres, who outside of the Tigers have been the hottest team in baseball, going 9-1 down the stretch here. The Atlanta Braves are limping their way into the playoffs. I talk a lot about pitching. Pitching is very, very important. The NL Cy Young winner, or most likely NL Cy Young winner, Chris Sale, is hurt. He had avoided injuries all year long. That had always been his Achilles heel. He comes to Atlanta, pitches a Cy Young-worthy season, and now is out for the playoffs. They can't do this without him. The rest of that roster is equally as injured as their pitching staff has been, and San Diego's the opposite. At the deadline, they go and shore up that bullpen. They have 3 closers in that bullpen now. They add Luis Arias early on in the season. That lineup is stacked. They get They get Tatis Jr. back, Fernando Tatis Jr. This is a stacked team top to bottom. They're getting healthier. The Braves kind of are the opposite in terms of health, and I think the San Diego Padres win this in 2, and I don't think it's very close. This is a Braves team that I had picked to make the World Series at the beginning of the year, but they're just way too injured to make it out of the NL wildcard round. Heading into the divisional rounds, the matchups that we have for you: the Houston Astros taking on the Cleveland Guardians, the Kansas City Royals taking on the New York Yankees, the New York Mets taking on the Philadelphia Phillies, and of course, the San Diego Padres taking on the LA Dodgers. A couple of these matchups, division matchups in the NL, but we're going to start off in the AL over there. The Houston Astros taking on the Cleveland Guardians. This is going to be a battle of opposites, I think, in this one. The Cleveland Guardians are a team that if you keep them in the game, they will win. Point blank period. If they're in the game, they'll find a way to win because that bullpen is that good. They have some really solid hitting. J-Ram puts up a near 40-40 season this year. That's not something normal for a guy to be able to do it that quietly, right? You have a lot of really great pitching. Nothing that's going to blow you out of the water, but they've had a resurgent season with the bats. They need more to step up in the playoffs than have been, but if they're close, they can run away with any series. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. I think the Astros, I don't think this is going to be an easy series by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think the Astros managed to find a way to make it to their 8th straight ALCS. The Houston Astros take down the Cleveland Guardians in 6 games. Move on there. The Royals taking on the Yankees, and as much as I love the Royals, as much as I want to root for the Royals, their offense has been abysmal recently. The Yankees, their pitching has been a little bit of a problem, but against the Royals offense, I don't think it's going to be. I think the Yankees take care of business in that one pretty quickly. 5 games, setting up an Astros-Yankees ALCS. Lots of fun over there. Lots of history there, and we'll get to it in a second. In the NL side of things, the Phillies and the Mets. The Phillies have been slumping a little bit recently, but the Mets, I just don't feel like they have the juice to get past the Phillies this year. The Phillies, with their pitching, their big three on the mound is ridiculous. It's going to be hard to get a better three than that. With their bats are kind of made for summer, made for October here. Power up and down that lineup. I think they're ready to go. I think the Phillies win this series in 7 games in 5 games against the Mets. Excuse me. The other NL series. The Dodgers taking on the San Diego Padres here. The Padres took down the Dodgers last time they played in the playoffs, and like I said, the Padres are the healthiest team right now. They have probably the second best roster, only behind those Dodgers. The Dodgers have the same issue every single postseason: pitching, pitching, pitching. They have the same issue this postseason: pitching, pitching, pitching. They cannot get their starting pitchers to be healthy. They cannot get them to be relied upon. I think the San Diego Padres find a way in this one, win it in 5 as well. These are all going to be pretty good series outside of, I think, the Yankees and outside of the Yankees series. I think all of those will be good. Setting up a really fun matchup in the ALCS and the NLCS with the Phillies taking on the Padres. Both of those teams looking to get a much needed, well waited for championship. The Phillies are the only team in the NL East to not win a championship in the 2000. San Diego Padres have been waiting forever to get back to this moment. I think the Padres are going to be able to get it done. The Phillies just can't seem to get that momentum in the playoffs, and this doesn't feel like their year. They've been struggling a little bit down the stretch. They've lost series to the Mets. They've lost series to the Padres. They've lost series to the Brewers, and they just lost a series to the Nats. They're not coming in hot. I'm rolling with the San Diego Padres to come out of the NL in this one. And on the AL side, we have the Yankees taking on the Astros. That one is going to be must-watch television. I'm going to lean towards the Astros, though. The Astros, I know it's not really fair to just go back on, what's happened in the past. But the Yankees pitching isn't quite there, and I think the Astros have the Yankees numbers in the postseason. The Astros win 7-game series in that one, setting up an Astros-Padres finale in the World Series. I think the Padres get it done. Maybe I'm going a little far with that one, but I think the Padres take down the Astros in 6. This should be a fun postseason. This is the most wide-open postseason that I have seen in a long time. I don't think you'd be crazy for picking just about any team to win the World Series in this one. This should be a lot of fun. This must-watch baseball right now, and I cannot wait to see what happens as the rest of the postseason drags on. But let me know what you think. Who's making the World Series? Who's going to win the World Series? I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we are going to dive into the Monday night football games. There were 2 of them yesterday. We're going to talk all about both of them, give you a quick update on both of the baseball games as well. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm in fake shit. Hoping one day I blow up in a basement. Statement. The top is so vacant. I don't need shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing. Sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that sound. Get in my way and to be put down. Hitting your place, I'll get my sound. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the losing fit, the losing shit, the stupid myth. You choose to live, but choose to dip. You choose to fight, or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh. Feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign. Feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, October 1st. If you are just tuning in, we just broke down all of the MLB playoffs. We did a whole bracket. I had the Padres taking the World Series, taking down the Houston Astros out of the AL. In this segment, we're going to break down the two Monday night football games, one between the Titans and the Dolphins, the other between the Seahawks and the Lions. But before we do that, a quick update on the two baseball games, playoff baseball games that are live right now. The Tigers have a 3-0 lead heading into the bottom of the ninth over on ABC. And the Orioles, currently tied with the Royals, have runners on the corners with 2 outs in the bottom of the fifth. But before we get into Monday Night Football, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you have to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you are on YouTube, you can use the Super Chat feature to do the exact same thing as well. If you have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, October 1st. But like I was saying, football, Monday Night Football. There was a doubleheader here. One of those games was really fun. One of them, not so much. And we're going to start off with the not so much fun game. The Dolphins took on the Titans in a game that both of these teams really desperately needed. A game that both of these teams, Titans coming in at 0-3, Dolphins coming in at 1-2, needed to get their seasons at least kind of back on track. And it's an interesting discussions coming out of both of these games. The most interesting one coming out of the Dolphins and Titans game is who is going to start at quarterback for the Titans. We saw Will Levis start off the game, throw a really, really bad interception, get hurt trying his best for a first down. That's what we like to see. We love to see effort out there, and the coaching staff seems to be behind him. But the Titans put up 31 points with Mason Rudolph at the helm. Mason Rudolph, a guy that led the Steelers to some success last season on a team that, if we're being honest, is built very similar to those Pittsburgh Steelers. Mason Rudolph did one thing differently, only one thing differently than Will Levis. He took care of the football. And you see the world of difference that makes for this Titans team. This is a Titans team that, while yes, they weren't playing the greatest competition, that defense is elite. It's an elite level defense. Missing a couple of their key pieces as well, they were still able to hold the Dolphins that are R2-less to just 12 points. Tyler Huntley, I know they looked bad. I think he looked better than Skylar Thompson, though. That extra little ability of his to run, move the ball with his legs, I think is a huge part of that game. There were lots of drops, lots of under and overthrows, but he's a little rusty. I want to give him another week. I think he should start the next week. I think the Titans should move off of Will Levis. And maybe you're saying that's a little bit of a harsh assessment. Maybe you're looking at me and saying, "Hey, he's a young quarterback. He has barely played a full season," and you're right. But look at what the Panthers are doing with Bryce Young, right? Look at what Andy Dalton's done to that team. They haven't won 2 straight games, but they have looked competitive in both of them. And I think the Titans are a team, especially in the division that they're in, they can turn it around. The Texans have looked pretty human. They almost lost a game to Jacksonville this week. Almost. This division isn't completely out of hand for them. I think Mason Rudolph should come in. Turning our attention to the other game, the Lions took on the Seahawks at home. The Lions get a huge win. Jared Goff. How about Jared Goff throwing the largest ever perfect game, I will say, in football history? 18 for 18, nearly 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, a receiving touchdown. The Lions total went 19 of 19 through the air. Amon-Ra threw a touchdown as well. Jared Goff had a great game. Unfortunately, it does not qualify in the record books, so that is not a new record. Deep sigh of relief there, Drew Brees. You hold on to your all-time single-game completion percentage leader. You need 20 passing attempts. He only had 18, but still a crazy accomplishment. You'd never get to see this. This is the first time in the last 80 years or so that a team has thrown 100%. The other time was the Giants against the Washington Redskins at the time. They only threw one pass. So it doesn't really even count. It's incredibly impressive to see. All props go to Matthew Stafford, go to the Lions on that one. But it wasn't all through the air. Most of their damage was done on the ground. David Montgomery, angry runs all throughout the game. A screen pass, bouncing off of people, picking up 40 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs with the head of steam is scary. His ability to pick up yards like in the blink of an eye is something that is very rarely seen across the entirety of the NFL. And that lightning thunder duo is dangerous for any team. Now, I want to give props to the Seahawks too, because this Seahawks team played great. You can look at me and say, hey, they gave up 42 points. What about that defense you were talking about yesterday? The entire defensive line was out. Every single one of their front four was out for that game, which explains why the Lions were able to get so much push up front. Explains why the Lions were able to get so much time in the pocket. Explains, honestly, why Jared Goff was 18 for 18. There wasn't a lot of pressure on him. It's fine, but I want to give a lot of props to Geno Smith. And also, I want to put out there, I think Geno Smith is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And maybe I'm insane for saying this, but what he's able to do with this team, his ability to handle the pressure that he is under at all times, his ability to improv and make accurate throws is ridiculous. It's up there with some of the best in the entire league. I'm not saying he's an elite quarterback, but I am saying most people would have a guy like Dak Prescott at around number 10. Conservatively 10 to 13. Yeah, 10 to 13 range for Dak Prescott. I think if you put those two in a vacuum, if you put Geno Smith on the Cowboys are a better team. I think if you put Dak Prescott on the Seahawks are not a better team. Maybe they're just as good, but I don't think they're a better team. I think Geno Smith is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, especially after that performance. And it's not going to get all the headlines. He threw an interception at the end of the game. An incredible pick, by the way, by Kirby Joseph in the end zone to end the game at a point where it didn't really even matter. They were down by 2 scores with like 30 seconds left. But what Geno Smith is able to do, he deserves a lot more credit than what he's getting. I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. But we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, Rankings Tuesday officially begins. We are going to head our way to the NFL to do the Week 5 NFL Power Rankings. New risers, new fallers, new people at the bottom, potentially new people at the top. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube. Absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, October 1st, and before we get into our next segment, I want to do some updates here from the wild card games in baseball. The Detroit Tigers currently lead 3-1 in the bottom of the ninth. They've got their closer out there, second and third for the Houston Astros. The game-winning run is at the plate after a sacrifice to move the runners up from first and second. In Baltimore, the Royals have taken a 1-0 lead here in the top of the sixth inning, thanks to a Bobby Witt single. Now we head to the bottom of the sixth inning. Royals lead 1-0. They strike first, offense up on the board. But in this segment, we are going to take a look at the NFL Power Rankings. It is Tuesday. That means we do our Power Rankings. New people are here at the bottom. And in just a second, we're going to rank number 32 to 17. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, October 1st. But like I was saying, Tuesday are for rankings, and we are going to start in the NFL. A brand new team down at the bottom, and it is the Miami Dolphins. I'm willing to admit when I was wrong. If you were listening in the preseason, I thought the Dolphins would start off 10-0. That's not happening. When you lose your franchise quarterback, it's not easy, especially when the offense has looked as lost as any offense I've ever seen in my entire life without Tua. And I did not expect that. I thought they'd be able to throw in a Skyler like they'd been able to do in years prior and be fine. Throw in Tyler Huntley and be fine. But that offense looks awful. They get no push on the offensive line. They can't run the ball. They cannot get anything through the air. Dropped passes by some of their good receivers. Quarterbacks overthrowing and underthrowing balls. It doesn't really matter who's in. That Dolphins team is a hot dumpster fire of a mess right now, and they are all the way down to number 32. Biggest droppers of the week. I think they're the worst team in football right now. At number 31, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars, the only winless team in the entire league. The Jacksonville Jaguars at 0-4, but we're going to be a little bit positive here. I know they sit at 31. I know they're 0-4, but they should have, maybe not should have, but could have taken down a top 10 team in the Houston Texans. They played a close game. Trevor Lawrence played his best game of the season by far against Houston. Now, it wasn't enough to win, and that's just the silver lining. They're still the only winless team, and that's the most important thing here, which is why they sit down at 31. But there are some positive signs out there. It's not all negative for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is why they move out of the basement up one spot to 31. Up one spot as well are those Tennessee Titans. Get a win over the Miami Dolphins. This is contingent on what they do at quarterback. Now, Coach Callahan said they are going to start Will Levis when he's ready. And I think that's a mistake. I talked about that in the last segment. I think that is a mistake. We saw how much better, how much more efficiently, how much less turnovers happened in this Tennessee Titans offense when Mason Rudolph was out the helm. This does not happen. This offense doesn't run smoothly with Will Levis. And honestly, if I knew Mason Rudolph was going to be the starter, I think I'd probably bump this team up maybe to 26. I love that defense. This is a very good defense. They just need to play better offense. And until they finally say, hey, Will Levis, you're done, I can't move this team any higher than 30. At 29, it's the Cleveland Browns, also up a spot from last week. The Cleveland Browns played a better game than they had in previous weeks. It wasn't enough to win. Some missed throws, some drop passes, some bad timed penalties, and some awful awareness by Deshaun Watson lead them to the number 29 spot and a loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, a Raiders team that didn't have their best offensive weapon or their best defensive weapon. They still lose. That is embarrassing for the Browns. Silver lining for this team: Nick Chubb coming back to practice tomorrow. Maybe we see Jameis Winston start at quarterback. The whispers are starting to get up to an audible level. I don't think it happens yet, but it's definitely out there, and I bet you it's definitely a thought that has crossed the coach's mind at this point. I don't know that for sure, though. Browns at 29. At 28, the New York Giants also up one spot. They could not punch anything into the end zone, but that guy on the picture, Malik Neighbors, is something special. Hopefully he's okay. He's diagnosed with a concussion. You cannot have a receiver be the entire offense, regardless of how good they are. Malik Neighbors literally is the whole offense. He's going to shatter target records if he's able to get back on the field. Daniel Jones needs to work on his deep ball. This is a bad Giants team. Their defense is okay. Their offense is atrocious outside of Malik Neighbors. They can't be that one-dimensional. Teams are going to find a way to stop him. They're going to start double, triple covering him, bracketing him. He's not going to get open as many times as he has been. Giants sit at 28. At 27, it's Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. An ugly, kind of inspiring win, dare I say, against the New York Jets. Only putting up 60 yards of passing offense, finishing the first half with -7 passing yards, throwing your first NFL passing touchdown. Clap it up over there for Bo Nix. Congratulations. Still not that good. I don't know how their defense has been able to hold these good offenses, I think, to single-digit points these last couple weeks, but they have. All props go to them. All props go to the Denver Broncos defense. This offense needs to be better, and I think they get blown out if it wasn't a monsoon over there in New York. Probably should have lost anyway, but they found a way to win. Broncos at 27. At 26, the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots hold steady at number 26 after a brutal loss to the San Francisco 49ers. There's a trend. They win games when they don't turn the ball over. They turn the ball over against a good 49ers defense. Again, they are what we expected them to be. This isn't some kind of crazy outlook for the New England Patriots. We expected them to be bad. They were bad. That's just how the cookie crumbles in this one. We're on Drake May watch. He's coming in soon. Couple of weeks. I know Gerard Mayo saying this is Jacoby's team, but couple of weeks from now, I think we see Drake May step on and make his first start in the NFL. At 25, it's those Las Vegas Raiders. They find a way to win without Davante Adams, without Max Crosby. That is a huge win for this team. They didn't do anything special. They didn't do anything fancy. Now Davante Adams, reports are they're looking to trade him a little bit. Interesting to see where he lands. We'll have more on that tomorrow, though. But the Raiders, a good win over the Browns, a win that they needed really badly, actually. The Browns, a team that is on paper good, but they can't get anything going offensively. Not a super impressive win, but a win they needed nonetheless without their two best players on either side of the ball. At 24, it's the Carolina Panthers, and they just continue to climb on this one, right? Andy Dalton able to put up 20-plus points yet again, this time against a Bengals defense that also is not very good. But still, there's positive momentum coming out of Carolina. The receivers look like they're smiling. This team looks happy, more together. That is the start of what you need. Again, kind of like the Patriots, this is not a team that we expect to win. This is not a team we expect to do great, amazing things. But against a high-powered Cincinnati team, against a bad Cincinnati defense, keeping it within 10, keeping the Bengals from really exploding on you, just their normal offensive output, it seems, is a big win for that defense. That's not very good. At 23, it's those Cincinnati Bengals. 34 points against a bad Carolina defense. It wasn't their greatest showing. That defense is significantly worse than everybody thought, at least than I thought. I thought that defense, even though it lost a bunch of pieces, would still be able to stop a fly, would still be able to stop anything. They've been unable to do that 2 weeks in a row against the Commanders and now the Panthers. Those teams have gone up and down the field on them. It's not a good look for the Bengals. When they start playing quality competition, they're going to lose. And they've lost a lot already. That first win, a win they needed badly, has not impressed me, has not really impressed anyone that I've seen. The Bengals need to turn it around on defense, and they need to do that quick if they have any hope of making any kind of run against anyone in this league. At 22, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get their first loss of the season. Justin Fields looks really good, and I think, honestly, that was his best game of the season. They ran into a Colts team that is kind of bipolar. They were on a good Colts day that day, and a good Colts day is a good Colts team. A good Colts day is a playoff caliber team. The Pittsburgh Steelers run into their first real competition of the season, and they lose. But they did break that 20-point margin. Very proud of them for that. I think there's some positives to look at here. Justin Fields, over 300 yards. He made some negative plays, but this is the Steelers. They're going to find a way to win games against the teams that they're supposed to beat. I don't know why people are so shocked that the Colts beat the Steelers. I don't think it's that shocking. I think it's just one of those games. Obviously, Joe Flacco coming in, not turning the ball over, helps. That defense didn't quite play up to its standard, but still, they'll bounce back from this. This is a good Steelers team. They're at 22. At 21, it's the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers lose a tight one to the Chiefs. Sounds like I say that about every opponent that plays the Chiefs. 17-10 in this one. They put up a fight, and that's really all you can ask against the Kansas City Chiefs with the team built like this. There were a couple of weird decisions made by Justin Herbert, a couple of open receivers. Maybe they win that game if he hits them. I don't think they win either way, but still, there's some things to work on. There's some things to improve on. This is kind of what we expected out of the Chargers, right? A team that is going to be a little feisty, but is not going to make too much noise. They've lost their last 2 games, and I think they're coming back down to earth after beating 2 bad teams in the first 2 weeks. At number 20, it's the Chicago Bears, and I keep seeing improvements out of Caleb Williams and this Bears team. That defense continues to play really good ball. A bend, don't break style is a very good way to play football, as well as being very opportunistic with turnovers. This is a good Bears defense, a really good Bears defense, and Caleb Williams gets better every single week. He made some of those throws that he was missing early on in the season this week. DJ Moore, a nice throw up the sideline that resulted in a touchdown. This team is going to be good next year. Maybe even late this year. It's not going to be enough to make the playoffs, I don't think, but they're improving every single week, and that's really what matters for these Chicago Bears. At number 19, it's the Indianapolis Colts. The big question is with Anthony Richardson. Even in his limited action, he was doing his thing again, making crazy throws, missing a couple of easy ones. He gets hurt, which is scary. He's a guy that, in his limited action, has been injured constantly. Joe Flacco comes in, and that's why you invest in a backup quarterback, right? Joe Flacco comes in, and some people are saying he looked better. Maybe he looked better, but this is Anthony Richardson's team. He is day to day. The Colts are up 2 spots to number 19 on this list, and they're going to continue to climb if they continue to play like this. Like I said in the Steelers, when I was talking about the Steelers, it was a good Colts day. This team is kind of bipolar. It's a good Colts day. They're going to win. They're going to put up. They're going to be able to be competitive with anyone. A bad Colts day, they're going to lose to just about anyone. So it's really a crapshoot with these Colts, But we'll see. At number 18, it's the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams are an interesting team to dissect here. The Los Angeles Rams are a team that I look at as really talented, but very injured. Obviously, that's been the storyline here. They've been unable to finish drives in the red zone. Kyren Williams has been a beast as far as finding the end zone. That's not something that is normal, how many times he's been able to score this season. Matthew Stafford doing everything he can with this team. It's just going to be tough with how injured they are. Rams are at 18. And at number 17, the Arizona Cardinals, a team that I was probably too high on. That defense is atrocious. Awful. Probably the top 5 bottom defense in the entire league, the Arizona Cardinals own. But the offense has encouraging signs. Wasn't too good against the Commanders, only putting up 14 points. But still, this is a team that I think can make a lot of noise. It's a little high on them. We adjust, fall 4 spots to 17, but they're better than the bad teams. And I think that's very clear from the way that they play football. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll unveil the top half of the NFL Power Rankings. So stick around for that here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, October 1st. If you were just tuning in, we did the first half of the NFL Power Rankings. We're going to finish that up in this segment. But before we do, updates on the MLB wildcard. The first game has wrapped up. The Detroit Tigers win 3-1, lead the series 1-0. Tariq Skubal is awesome. That's the takeaway from this game. The Royals lead the Orioles 1-0 in the bottom of the 7th, and the Mets and the Brewers have started the game. Bottom of the first, score is even at 0. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the second half, the top half, number 16-1 of the NFL Power Rankings. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. Or if you are on YouTube, you can do the exact same thing. If you have a burning question about sports, anything at all you'd like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, October 1st. But like I was saying, we're going to finish up the NFL Power Rankings in this segment, ranks 16-1, and kicking off there at number 16 is the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys get a big win, a potentially season-saving win, and that's big words to throw around in week 4 here. But a win they needed really badly to keep pace with the Eagles, keep pace with the Commanders in that division. The Cowboys don't look good. Injuries up and down that defense. Micah Parsons going to miss his first game of professional level football ever. DeMarcus Lawrence on the IR. 4 games. The offense is just CeeDee Lamb. They don't have any kind of ground game. Dak Prescott is not doing enough with his other receivers for them to be a threat. And CeeDee Lamb, when he's getting all this attention, has not been able to be that game changer that he was last year. Cowboys need a run game, and they need it in the worst possible way. Cowboys are struggling. They're still finding a way to win. Good teams find ways to win, even if it's against bad teams. Cowboys are here at 16. At number 15, it's the New Orleans Saints. My, oh my, what a fall from grace the New Orleans Saints have had. Starting off 2-0, one of the hottest offenses in all of football. Quality win, we thought, over the Cowboys. Win over the Panthers, too. 91 points in 2 weeks is something hard to do. And then the fall off. Couple of key mistakes made by the Saints in these last couple games. Turning the ball over. Obviously, the punt that went for a touchdown against them, that's not the only reason they lost, but it is a huge reason. Punt returners are having a lot of trouble in the NFL all week. They were one of our losers at the beginning of when we talked about it yesterday. The Saints, I still think are a good team. I do. But when they don't have the run game going, they get really flat. And Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed have not been those kind of crazy weapons in the past game that they seem to be in the first couple weeks of the season. Derek Carr regressing back to Derek Carr, right? The Saints need to get that run game going if they want to keep playing like they were the first 2 weeks of the season. At 14, it's the Atlanta Falcons, a team that wins in walk-off fashion over those previously mentioned New Orleans Saints. Younghoe Koo, new career long to win that game. That's a fun story. They're starting to click. I like the tandem between Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson. I know a lot of people clamor for Bijan Robinson, highly touted, now second-year guy out of Texas. Kirk Cousins is doing enough. He's being a game manager, and that's what this team needs to do. They're winning games. They're keeping games close against really good teams. This is a Falcons team that, if they keep doing what they're doing, could crawl their way into a playoff spot. It's going to be a fun battle between them and the Bucs down the stretch of this season, though. I'm excited for it. At 13 is the New York Jets. This is a team that I cannot get a read on. The New York Jets 1 week look fine, but have issues. Next week, they look good. The next week, they look great. The week after that, they look terrible. 9 points against the Broncos. 9 points against the Broncos. I'll say it one more time for the people in the back. 9 points against the Broncos. That's unacceptable with Aaron Rodgers at your quarterback. I know the game was sloppy. I know it was a monsoon out there. But 9 points against the Broncos is awful. That defense did its job, only surrendering 10, holding Bo Nix to 60 passing yards, and you lose. That offense needs some work. They went and reshored that offensive line. Whatever's happening, they're out of sync with each other. Aaron Rodgers and receivers are not on the same page, and you can take that back to training camp. Maybe with a new team, he should have been there. This is still a very good team. They're going to have time to figure it out in a division. The rest of that division is struggling. The Bills get a loss to keep the New York Jets in it. This is going to be a tough This is going to be a tough season for the Jets because you can see the flashes of an elite football team every single week. But then something happens and the other shoe drops. And maybe that's just the Jets for you. But this is a good team. And I can't quite figure out why they can never be consistent. At 12, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. Another really good team struck with a turnover issue. This is a firing on all cylinders version of the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans all the way down there at 30. This is a slightly better version of the Tennessee Titans. And again, I like this Titans team. I think they have really solid defense built over there. The Eagles, their secondary needs some work. But most importantly, Jalen Hurts needs to stop turning the ball over. That is the biggest thing. Turnovers. I can be a broken record for you all day long talking about a lot of the teams on this list. Turnovers. The Eagles fall 5 spots because they cannot keep the ball clean. In games where they keep the ball clean, they win. Point blank, period. And they win by a lot. Jalen Hurts has lost this team 2 games so far. He's also won them 2 games so far. So he's about even in my eyes. But turnovers, this is a team that could very easily be 4-0 right now. Instead, they're 2-2. And, that's just how it goes sometimes. Turnovers are an issue. The Eagles will fall further if they can't fix their issue in this bye week. At number 11, it's the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders have looked awesome. Jaden Daniels has something about him. He does not throw incompletions. I talked about it when we were talking yesterday. 23 scoring drive for the Washington Commanders in the first 4 weeks. 19 incompletions for the Washington Commanders in the first 4 weeks. That is insane. 1 punt in the last 3 games. That is insane. These are not normal numbers. The Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels have figured something out. There's lots of, criticism around the offense, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong. They aren't. It is a college-style offense, but it's a college-style offense run at a pro level. And as long as something is run at a pro level, It can work, and we're seeing the Washington Commanders do that. Cliff Kingsbury's teams tend to start quick and fizzle out near the end, but for now, the Washington Commanders look near unstoppable. I think they could compete with any team in the NFL right now, maybe even beat every single team in the NFL right now. But for now, they're at 11, the highest risers of the week, up 8 spots. Hitting the top 10 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, another team coming off of a big loss against the Broncos. I guess that Broncos defense needs some love. They finally got Mike Evans involved again. And look what happens when Mike Evans gets involved. You win football games. It really is that simple. You look good and you win football games. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are a tough, tough beast to stop. Give Mike Evans the ball. Throw it up to him. He'll make a play. There's a reason he's never had a season under 1,000 yards in his entire life. His entire NFL career. That's a ridiculous stat right there. And he hasn't done it with great quarterbacks most of the time. So, Tampa Bay Bucs at 10. At number 9, it's the Seattle Seahawks, coming off of a loss where their defense was incredibly injured. Geno Smith played awesome. Geno Smith played like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, way up into that second echelon of quarterbacks. Not an elite guy, but a great guy. And that's where he's played himself into. I love the Seahawks team. We saw that extra element of explosiveness with Kenny Walker back on the field. 3 touchdowns from that guy. What he's able to do on a football field is crazy. It's very fun to watch. This is a good Seahawks team. There's a reason they were undefeated. They should be considered as one of the biggest threats in the NFC this year. They are at number 9. At number 8, the Green Bay Packers. They get Jordan Love back way earlier than most people expected. He comes back after missing just 2 games. 2 games that they won, by the way. Jordan Love is 0-2 on the season, and I know that's unfair. Malik Willis is 2-0. Jordan Love is 0-2. I know that's unfair. Just the level of competition that they've played against, the teams that they've played. But still, very impressive for the Packers to even be able to come back and have it look like a game at the end, being down 28-0 and clawing your way back to make it a 2-point game. This is a very good Packers team. They went up against a buzzsaw in the Sam Darnold-led Vikings, but the Green Bay Packers are dangerous this year. Another one of those top-tier NFC teams. At number 7, it's those Houston Texans, and I know they got a win, but they had to come back against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team all the way down at 31, the only winless team left in the entire league. That's not a good sign. Coming off 2 shaky weeks when you don't have Joe Mixon, that run game is very important. They haven't been able to establish it. Nico Collins is a beast. That's it. This is a very good Houston Texans team. Nico Collins is awesome, and CJ Stroud continues to dominate the league, basically doing whatever he wants. Texans are up at 7. At number 6, it's the Buffalo Bills, dropping 4 spots after they get dominated by the Baltimore Ravens. Josh Allen has been dealing with a hand injury. It hasn't really affected them, and I don't think that's the reason why they ended up losing this game. But when he gets uncomfortable, starts hucking balls down the field, it gets a little tough. This is a good Ravens defense. You have to remember that. This is a Ravens defense that was ready for the Buffalo Bills, and they haven't been able to deal with that. This is still a really good Bills team. Josh Allen still MVP frontrunner in my mind. They just ran into a buzzsaw in the Ravens and Derrick Henry. Bills down 4-6. And there they are. The Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry rushes for 199 yards, averaging 120 yards rushing a game for Derrick Henry. He is a beast, a monster, a king, a man amongst men. Derrick Henry is awesome at football. And the Ravens, they finally came to play. We finally got to see what the Ravens were last season against the Bills. We've been waiting for it for 3 weeks. They're back with a vengeance, and if they can play like this, they're well on their way to being a Super Bowl contender. At number 4, it's the San Francisco 49ers, getting back on track, getting their guys back, getting a good win over the New England Patriots. I know it's the Patriots, not a super great team, but still, Brock Purdy was healthy. George Kittle had a nice touchdown catch. You got Brandon Ayuk involved a little bit more. Maybe that's something we can see more of in the future after he signed a big contract. Debo caught a deep ball. Things are starting to click even without Christian McCaffrey. Jordan Mason, very good at football. A great backup running back for you to have there. At number 3, it's those Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings 4-0 with Sam Darnold. And Justin Jefferson is great. Look, as much praise as Sam Darnold is getting, and as much praise as Sam Darnold deserves to get, a lot of this is because of Justin Jefferson, because Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the world, because he's able to do things on a football field that we see him do routinely that are insane. That one catch down the sideline that just hit him in the chest, perfect ball. Great catch there. That's not an easy catch to make. A tiptoe catch on the sideline. That's 2 highlight reel catches that you look at and you say, oh yeah, of course he caught it. It's Justin Jefferson. These are not normal things for people to do. More love needs to go to Justin Jefferson. He should be the MVP candidate, not Sam Darnold. It's my opinion, though. At 22, the Detroit Lions. That offense woke up. Sleeping giant got awoken. And if they can play like that offensively, like they did in the second half of that game, they are going to be unstoppable in this league. David Montgomery, crazy goal line back. Not really been on the goal line in the second half there, but Jahmyr Gibbs starting to look like he's taking that leading role a little bit more. Still a split there. Both of those running backs are awesome. That Lightning Thunder duo is crazy. Jared Goff, 18 for 18. Jared Goff catches a touchdown. It's awesome. This is a really good Lions team, and there are very few weaknesses with them. Secondary has some weaknesses. Terrion Arnold, way too many penalties. They lose Marcus Davenport. The pass rush isn't as good as it was in the beginning of the season. Still a very good Lions team. They're at number 2. And of course, that leaves the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1. And you can yell at me all you want. I know people last week wanted the Bills to be number 1. They lose. I know people this week that said they wanted the Lions to be number 1. They lose. I went back and I looked. Every single week of this NFL season, I have had a different number 2 team. Every single week of this NFL season, that number 2 team has lost. And that number 2 team has been, and that number 1 team this whole time has been the Kansas City Chiefs. So no, I will not be taking the Chiefs out of number 1. They're the best team in the league until someone finds a way to beat them. Close games or not, this is a Chiefs team, and winning is a talent in and of itself. This Chiefs team is really good. Also, Rashee Rice, not out for the season, just going on IR for a little bit. He avoided an ACL tear, so that is good news coming out of Chiefs Kingdom. Chiefs, once again, number 1 on the list. But let me know what you thought. Who should have been number 1? I'll recap the top 10 real quick. Buccaneers at 10. Seahawks at 9. Here we go. Buccaneers at 10. Seahawks at 9. Packers at 8. Texans at 7. Bills at 6. Ravens at 5. Niners at 4. Vikings at 3. Lions at 2. And the Chiefs at 1. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we are going to get into the NCAA Top 25. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, October 1st. If you are just tuning in, we've just gone through the NFL Power Rankings. And before we get into our next segment, some updates from around the Diamond, the wild card round. The Orioles currently down 1-0 in the bottom of the 8th. Gunnar Henderson just walked. Kansas City leading 1-0, bottom 8. The Brewers have come out quickly to a 2-0 lead over the Mets. Currently, the Mets have 2 men on and nobody out in the top of the second. Keep you updated on those. In this segment, we're going to take a look at the NCAA's top 25, as well as our group of 5 top 5 teams, to take a look at where the playoffs stand for now. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it, or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you have a burning question about sports, anything that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, October 1st. But like I was saying, we're getting into the NCAA top 25. But before we do that, real quick, we have, of course, our group of 5 top 5. Starting at number 5 here, a service academy, Navy. All the service academies, or I guess Army and Navy, I should say, have been awesome this year. Navy comes off of a huge win this week. They also beat Memphis last week, who was up on our list a little while ago before they take that loss to Navy. Navy is our number 5 team. Washington State drops 2 spots on our list after losing to Boise State, getting blown out by Boise State. Boise State looks like a juggernaut in the group of 5 right now. James Madison up 1 spot from number 4. Alonzo Barnett, another huge game. They put up 63 points after putting up 70 last week. They also look like a wagon. UNLV also up 1 spot to number 2. New quarterback, no problem. They might even look better there. And of course, Boise State and Heisman candidate Ashton Jeanty, in my mind, Heisman leader Ashton Jeanty, at the top of that group of 5 list. We'll see if any of them were able to make it on to the top 25, or if Boise was able to keep their spot on there as well. But starting at number 25, Illinois. A tough loss to Penn State, a good Penn State team. They end up losing by a couple of scores. This is still a good Illinois team. Got a little too high on them. They're down 4 spots to 25. 24 is Indiana. They had one of the best off seasons in all of college. New coach, basically a whole new roster. They take down their first real opponent of the season, and they do it in pretty good fashion. They're up 1 spot to number 24. At 23, it's those previously mentioned Boise State Broncos. Ashton Jeanty on pace for 2,700 yards, on pace for 40 touchdowns. Those are not human numbers. Those would shatter records by Barry Sanders that he set back when he was in college. Ashton Jeanty for Heisman. Absolutely. At number 2, the Utah Utes. And this is a team that I am starting to be a little angry with, honestly. Cam Rising, when he is in at quarterback, this is a top 10 team nationally. No doubt about it in my mind. That defense is elite, physical. When they don't have Cam Rising, they cannot score. They cannot move the ball. This is not how you play football. They should have brought in a backup quarterback. This is very much kind of like the Dolphins are experiencing without Tua, except this happens every single season for Utah. Utah, get your stuff together, man. They're down. Biggest fallers of the week. Utah's down 13 spots to number 22. A team that was out of the top 25 for a little while. Arizona gets a big win over the Utah Utes. Their defense really did impress me. Now, again, it's against a Utah team that can't score without Cam Rising. But that offense is scary. It's elite, can score on just about anybody except this number 20 team, the Kansas State Wildcats. The Wildcats held Arizona just 7 points. Outside of that, Arizona's been really awesome offensively. Kansas State gets a huge win over Oklahoma State, taking them down in very convincing fashion. Avery Johnson is a good dual threat quarterback, but he has his ups and downs. Didn't look very good in an earlier matchup against Tulane. Didn't look very good against Arizona, but dominated against a good team in Oklahoma State. Kansas State is a little up and down, but they deserve to be in the top 25. At 19, it's Louisville. Louisville lost to Notre Dame. Notre Dame, very good team. Very good defense. Louisville only lost by 7. I still think Louisville's offense can compete with just about anybody. Their defense might need a little bit of work, especially their run defense, and that's what Notre Dame thrives on. But still a very good team over there in Kentucky. Louisville should be up there. At number 18, BYU. BYU dominates for most of that game against Baylor after getting a huge win the week before against Kansas State there. BYU, very good team. They're up a couple spots to 18. 17, the Oklahoma Sooners. Their defense is very, very impressive. That defense is going to keep them in games when their offense continues to struggle a little bit. They take down Auburn. Huge win for them. They bounce back from a loss to Tennessee. Tennessee's a tough team. LSU at number 16, they've got struggles of their own, but I mean, they continue to win football games. If they run into a team with a super high-powered offense, they're going to run into some issues, especially if that team also has any kind of defense, which is half of what South Alabama was. They dominated them this week. 15, the USC Trojans. The Trojans, again, they took a win over LSU earlier on in the season. You have to respect that head-to-head. This is a good program. It's not a program that I think is a lock for the playoffs, but it's a good program, one that's going to be fringe playoff contenders. Same thing with the Wolverines. They get a win this week as well. It wasn't super impressive. They almost lost this game, but a win's a win. They've been able to bounce back from that Texas loss. Figured out an identity here. Run the ball down people's throats. The Wolverines are at 14. At 13, it's Iowa State. That defense is elite. A shutout on the road. Even if it's against Houston, shutting another team out in their own building is not something you ever see in college football. And that is crazy. Iowa State is a very, very good football team. That defense is going to be tough for any team to stop, and they've got just enough offense to compete. They're built a little better than Iowa has been in the past. They're up to 13. At 12, it's Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is, I think, a good team. They got hit in the mouth from the first real team that they played in Kentucky, a Kentucky team that I tried to fit in here, and I honestly just couldn't. They're the first team out of these rankings right now. Ole Miss is a very good team. Very good team in Ole Miss. That offense, I don't know what happened. Again, they need to figure out how to be able to react from a team hanging around and getting hit in the mouth. Until they can do that, they're going to continue to fall. But one loss, I don't think is enough to drop out of the top 25. Definitely enough to drop out of the top 10, though. They are down 8 spots to number 12. At number 11, it's Notre Dame. An impressive win over Louisville. They're bouncing back from a brutal loss against Northern Illinois. If their offense can keep playing the way that it has been in recent weeks, and their defense continues to do what their defense always does, they're going to be a contender for the playoffs, and they're going to be a problem for some of these bigger schools. 10, Missouri. Missouri is a good SEC team. They've been playing teams closer than you want them to, but still getting wins. They're still undefeated. Once they get those SEC matchups start to come in, like those good SEC matchups, there's a good one this week against Texas A&M. I think they should win that one pretty much outright. They're not favored, but we'll talk about that one later on in the week. Missouri up to number 10. Clemson up to 9. A big win over Stanford. Stanford, a team that took down a solid team in Syracuse. That's not a nothing win for Clemson. Clemson is proving that week 1 was just a fluke, and they deserve to be ranked up here. I think Clemson is one of the best teams in the nation, especially with the way that offense has been playing of late. Up 3 spots to number 9. At number 8, it's Penn State, a huge win over the Illinois Fighting Illini. This is not one of those normal Illinois wins. This proves, honestly, Penn State can play with some of the better teams in the league in all of college football, right? The Big Ten is going to be stacked. Obviously, the big threat for Penn State always is going to be Michigan and Ohio State. But as long as they can get through, as long as they play like they had, and especially like they did against Illinois, score doesn't show it, but they dominated that game. I think they can keep pace with some of those teams. 7, it's Oregon. They found their offense a couple weeks ago. They continue to find it. I know UCLA is not the most impressive win, but Oregon is a very good team, and they're taking care of business against the small teams like they should have been earlier on in the year, something that they struggled with. We start to see them come back, figure it out a little bit. That's an encouraging sign as they start to get into Big Ten play. At number 6, it's Miami, a sweat fest of a game. If you're a Miami fan, you thought you lost that one to Virginia Tech at the last second. Turns out they overturned that call. I think that was the right call. I don't think it was a catch. Controversy over there, not the way you want to have a week. You lose a little bit of momentum, but a big win. Cam Ward, come back. This is a very good Miami Hurricanes team. They're here at number 6. At number 5, we have the Tennessee Volunteers. They just keep winning games, and they just keep winning games by a large margin, right? There's going to become a time when they have to play an elite squad, when they have to play a Georgia, when they have to play a Texas, when they have to play a Bama. And that's when we're really going to test their mettle. But quality wins have started to come their way. This is not your old Tennessee, I don't think. I think they have real championship ambitions this year. At number 4, it's Ohio. They drop a spot just because one team had a massive win, and we'll get to them in a little bit. Ohio State still has yet to play anybody. Once they play somebody real, that's when I'm going to know how good they are. But until then, it's just speculation, and they just need to keep beating the bad teams. We'll see. At 3, it's Georgia, a massive loss to Alabama. In an instant classic of a game, Georgia's still a very good team. I still think they're one of these top championship contenders. They were able to come back after being down 28 to a really good Alabama team, make it a game at the end. They just weren't able to pull it across the finish line. Georgia at number 3. At number 2, it's Texas. They didn't do anything wrong. They won their game like they were supposed to. But there was another team that had a bigger week. And again, that's just how it goes sometimes with these rankings. Texas, very good. That win against Michigan, the reason they're not number 1 is because that win against Michigan is not as impressive to me as the win for the number 1 team in the nation this week, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They got their first number 1 ranking since the Nick Saban era, since Nick Saban leaves. Only took 5 games. Pretty impressive. Way to go, Alabama. A huge win for them at home against Georgia. Ryan Williams, phenom at just 17 years old. This is going to be a really, really tough SEC title, and I cannot wait for the playoffs because we might be able to see 5 SEC teams in there. It's going to be a bloodbath. Should be a lot of fun this year. But let me know what you thought of my NCAA top 25. Do you think Alabama should be number 1? Who would you move around? Anyone I ranked too high, way too low? Anyone that I didn't have in there that you thought I should have? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of that. But thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. We'll be back tomorrow breaking down some more baseball action as the playoffs continue to heat up. We will talk all about Devontae Adams. We will talk all about anything else that happens around the world of sports. You all have a good one. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up with a bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great.